Well,
Was
you
that
did
chill?
you did have a surprise for me.
I did. It was chill, right?
We were grooving.
We were grooving. It was like so chill. And then it had a little stop, you know.
I know. It's like the pause.
Hello, welcome everyone who has joined us. Welcome to Awakenings Within. How you doing? Hey, it's the Larry man. Hey Larry, how'd you like our new intro? It's our Thursday night chill intro. Because he kept on saying that the other one was too peppy for him, and then it's just like ends.
The music was a good Monday morning cheer me up, get in the mood, sunny. But for Thursday night, but of course now we're coming into summertime where it's going to be a little bit lighter later. But I like mixing it up a little bit.
Yeah. Hi, Amy. Thanks for joining. You know, this week I found out that I have met Amy before, which was really cool in person.
Oh,
you wonder where I met her?
I'm
face would go
dying to know.
At Metro Christian Church.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
I'm like, and it keeps on getting weirder and weirder. How weird is that, right?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Because you had something to do with there some
time
ago.
Well, there's, I mean, that facility and that group of people have kind of had multiple personality disorder because it was originally South Kansas City Fellowship, which is what I founded, where we started it actually in Overland Park. Then it went to Kansas City Fellowship.
Oh.
Then it went to Metro Vineyard. Then it went to Metro Christian Fellowship. And I think now it's Forerunner.
I went there last year or the year before, and I had met Amy there actually.
Well, there's a Metro. Cool. So Mike Bickle, who was my co-founder in the whole thing, he split off and did IHOP, and then Metro Christian Fellowship went one way, and they were in a building off of Warnell somewhere. And then the building where everything was Kansas City Fellowship has gone through these different renditions, and now it's Forerunner.
Well, yeah, when I went there, the pastor, they were going to have to leave the building. So yeah, I don't know what happened. But it's so weird that our
those are soap opera stories, not really for our show, but yes.
Well, yeah. Yeah. And you and I have a similar backstory too, which is, I don't know that everybody knows that either, but, being affiliated with Vineyard, I guess.
Right.
So that's,
as a matter of fact, speaking of that, I actually had an interesting meeting this week. Back in 1990, when I was out in California working with John Weber, I met a guy from Vienna named Nicky Kimla. And Nicky was at that time there studying to be a pastor to open up the Vineyard churches in Austria. And I did what I have done most of my life and looked at him and go, "You're not a pastor, you're a Joseph. You're right. I know what you think you're supposed to do, but don't be surprised if you don't plant any churches." Well, then he ended up being our music promoter during the 90s, and when we were doing music, and later went on to start his own customer retention management CRM software, developed his own software, has a company called Pipeliner. And,
wow.
And he called me this week. We had a long catch-up conversation, but he, like so many other people, have come back on, how did you know?
Yeah. Well, did you know John and Marie Barnett then?
Yes, I knew all of them.
Okay, because at my ex and I's wedding, that was our song.
Okay, yeah.
The breathe song.
Well, remember the first album that Tom Davis, who is my dear friend, was the producer for Vineyard Music,
right.
And then, so I was in there all the time with Carl Tuttle and, Eddie Espinoza and the Barnetts and, Brian Dirksen, and just on and on and on. So
Brian Dirksen. Yeah.
Yeah.
We Sang many of his songs.
Yeah, those guys
Yeah.
were all, big names back in the 90s, early 2000s.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Amy, how are you? How's your evening? Larry, if you're still on here, how's your evening? Sure, they're zooming around. So, how was your week so far?
Well, I actually, you know, full confession, I just went and took a shower to wake myself up.
Oh no, to
Well,
wake
no,
yourself up.
it's been such a dreary sort of week.
Yeah, it's
And
raining
before the
now.
rains came, I was actually dealing with a little allergy reaction, I guess, because everything's starting to come out. So I've been kind of sleepy and tired and whatever. And so I was like, okay, I gotta wake myself up for the show tonight. I got Sunny Sandy on the other end here, and I'm gonna come off like this curmudgeonly old,
Sunny Sandy's having a little. Well, no, I take that back. Yesterday, I was exhausted. Have you
were
ever
you?
been so
Yeah.
exhausted that you just couldn't function?
Yeah, yeah.
I have. I rarely am like that. And the other day, I just like fell out. I just
Mm,
couldn't do. I just couldn't. I was just like, I can't do
no.
it. You know. So, how about you, Amy? Your evening's good. She is on this wonderful, awesome, I'm proud of you, Amy, workout journey. And I made myself go to the gym last night. I didn't even go home from work. I was like, if I go home and I sit down, I'm not going back out. And same thing. That's wise because it's so yucky out. And
Yeah, it's kind of where we are in Kansas City. It's been
it's
after we had a really warm week of sunshine, and now it's just gone the other way.
just
I
like
think
that.
March is my least favorite month. You know what I mean? It's
Oh,
always just drab, and it's not. Sometimes it's snowy, but it's mostly wet and cold. And
yes.
I love
April,
April. The daffodils will come out, the tulips will come out. We'll start seeing some colors, some
right. April
greenness.
showers bring May flowers. That's what
There
they
you
used to
go.
say.
So I was thinking about you this week because I was doing a little research on some, I had posted some articles on my Facebook page
I saw
about
that.
how the fact that 50% of the people right now in the United States who are on, as we're coming out of this COVID thing, are feeling anxious and nervous
Mm-hmm.
about re-engaging socially.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting, given the fact you're sort of the opposite of that, or at least the perception I have of you is you're like, a social animal. You're like, just give me more people, the more the merrier. You know what I mean? And so I was
Yeah.
trying.
I can get peopled out though. I can get
That's
peopled.
Sandy.
Yeah.
She
Well,
would
no,
be in the
yeah.
other
Not me.
50%. But it is interesting how what's happened is this isolation and this relating to each other like we're doing right now through technology is actually creating an anxiety in people that, oh my gosh, how do I handle actually re-engaging with people in a social setting? I think that's in play. I think
It
another
is.
aspect is things have gotten so volatile, on the social media world.
Yes.
There's been such polarization, and I think people are nervous. They're fearful. It's like, I don't want to get into a conflict. Like, I don't want to open my
Mhm.
mouth and then have somebody jump down my throat and start getting on my case about my perspective. So thoughts?
Well, okay. So interesting that you're talking about that because I mean, you can stay in that. I think we create our reality, right? We create our environment. You can create that. Like if you are tapping into all that. And I personally, when I started going out, also was nervous. And I'm
Were
an
you?
extrovert and I like
Mm.
people, but I didn't really want them to hug me and touch me.
Mm.
I was
So
like, whoa.
was there a fear, or was it an
It wasn't even
anxiety?
a fear. It was a, am I supposed to or not? It was
Oh,
like
I
a,
see. So
it
it
was
was
a whole,
more, what's
what
the
am I
protocol?
allowed to do?
Yeah,
Right.
protocol. Okay, got it.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, should I hug them? Should I not? Should I, are they okay? Like, are they a hugger or not? Are they going to
Right.
fist pump me or what are they going to do? You know?
Right.
And so it kind of makes you awkward.
Right.
I think everybody's just awkward. They're like,
Yeah, it kind of
hi.
reminds me of the first junior high dance that we went to. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I remember, boys on one side, girls on the other side of the gym. The band plays, and we're supposed to somehow walk all the way across that gym floor and pick a girl. And it's like,
Well, on St. Patrick's Day, I picked a place in my local watering hole, like at the corner where people walk by, so that I didn't have to get up and be that awkward. Like if they wanted to say hi and like half hug me, they could. But if they didn't, they could just go, hey, and keep going. So I kind of strategically put myself in that place, And before, though, when I didn't have a seat there, I was really awkward. I was like walking around like, oh, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So it's been a weird, it is weird. And the thing is, like in the last week, me personally, I have been ramping up different business kind of things. So I've been listening to different podcasts and just like filling my days up with reading books, actually, like reading and doing those types of things to unplug from the social media, and not let it impact me. It's just really a choice. It's a mindset choice on how you're going to live your life and what you're going to do with all of these things happening, because there are certain things in your circle that you can control environment wise, boundary wise, but then the bigger circle around, there's not much you can do with that, right? I don't know what my impact is there. I'm trying to impact different of my circles, of my little circles, but that's how I see it. And like at the politics level, I'm so disconnected and so far removed that I don't know how to impact that circle. But I look at it as like little prisms kind of around me. I don't know. Does that make sense? And so my little inner circle and a couple of the acquaintance circles and out, I can reach out to, and it's good. But then that way out, I can't impact that. I just don't know.
I would imagine that being extroverted or introverted probably plays significantly into how you're perceiving what's going on. The extroverts, they're usually the ones that were chomping at the bits about the lockdowns and the isolation anyways. And we're probably already sneaking behind closed doors and doing all the bad things that they're not supposed to do in public. While the introverts were all kind of going, oh yeah, peace and quiet, man. I now have an excuse not to have to go out there.
Exactly. That is what happened. And at the time when it all started last year, my sister is more of an introvert than I am.
Right.
And she was just freaked out by me being the extrovert that I am. She was just like, what are you doing? That's when we were bleaching our groceries. Okay. When we were bleaching our groceries. Funny how we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
Funny how we're not doing a lot of that stuff that we did last year. I don't hear much about COVID. Do you? I'm not.
Well, I don't want to get into the politics of it all, but the president did a news conference today and barely talked about it, which I found interesting, given that it's the biggest, issue. But I think it's interesting, and I think, well, people, a lot of, unless you have really close friends where there's a bridge of trust, I don't even think people want to talk to each other about it, only because they're too nervous as to what your perspective is. But the one thing that we know a year later is how much we didn't know.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my mom, because
don't we still not know?
Story. It's a sad story, right? But about 3 or 4 years ago, my mom was living in what they call assisted living or independent living, right? And so she was right, and then she got sick, and the doctor said she was going to die, and so I got the phone call. I got to drive up to Chicago, and and they're telling us we have all our stuff moved out, and I have an aunt and a cousin, and they're like hysterical, and it's everything swings out to the worst possible thing, and they're getting rid of her furniture and all her stuff, and they're throwing little mementos in my truck, and I was just like in a whirlwind of hysteria, trying to deal with these two just out of control women, right, who are telling me all this, right, only for my mom not to die. And
no.
Right. And so mom and I were talking about this because they ended up just in there swinging way out and overreacting. And she lost so much.
Wow.
Because of the hysteria. Right. And so I think, I'm only using that as a personal example, but I think a lot of people feel the same way on a national level right now, which is the hysteria, the swing out, right. And then you get back and find out, over the course of time, well, wait a minute,
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
I am still on the fence about it all. And that's why the Awakenings Within needs to be strong.
Well, and it's been but I'm just saying, you're in a situation right now where you have whole governors who are saying we're going by the science, right? We're opening up. That's what right. Other whole groups of people are going, well, that's not the right. And you're like, well, which science is it? Right. Because we always use science. Right. Science is always our fallback. Right.
Is it the political science? Or
right. Exactly. Right.
Or is it regular science?
So I have my mom's other sister's an 80-year-old, nurse, and one of the people that's in the age group of being most vulnerable, and she's rapidly anti-mask. You know what I mean? Right. And it's just freaks me out because I'm like, wait a minute, you're supposed to be the demographic that would be the ones. And she's like, just follow the science.
Yeah.
So,
and here we are back to that. And it's like, I'll just do what I need to do. And
here's one thing that we all learned, and I'm going to go out there on the edge and push.
He's on the edge. They're going to turn us down.
No. Putting Dr. Fauci, right? You know what I mean? Out there. I mean, he's, you don't put eggheads, you don't put the academics and the intellectuals out in the firing line, because he's just vacillated all over the place, right? He's just been all over the map, but he was not the right person to be the spokesman, right? And
no,
that was a terrible mistake.
His associations alone.
What?
His associations alone are.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, even personality-wise, he's not the right person to be the spokesman and to answer questions. He's been all over. It's just whatever wind was blowing, whatever group of people he was sitting with, it was all his answers were always slanted to that group, and you're just like,
wear a mask or don't wear a mask. It's
Stop
okay.
it. What?
No, wear a mask or don't wear a mask. It really doesn't help. Oh, it does help. Oh, now wear two.
Remember, because of his personality, which I felt terrible for him. But he's just not the guy he wanted to be like. So whatever group of people he was with, he would tell them what they wanted to hear.
No, it's been a crazy mess. It's just been a crazy.
Know better than to put those guys out there, and you know what I mean. But he created half of the confusion. You know what I mean?
It has, and so this is where, like today, who are your mentors? Who do you have mentoring you? Do you have mentors?
Not anymore.
Not anymore?
No. Now, when you say mentors, because, when I think of a mentor, I think of a relationship, right? Somebody that I'm, right? Mm-hmm. And when I was growing up, I had mentors. These are older men who put their arms around me and related. I'm 64 years old. I find myself now doing that to the younger generation.
Now you're the
right?
older.
But that doesn't mean I don't read. So it's in
Well,
other
no,
words,
because like Dr.
there are people
Holmes,
out
he's
there, that
yeah.
I'm still listening to and hearing. You know what I mean?
Do you know who Les Brown is?
No, I'm not familiar with that name.
Oh, he's an amazing kind of a motivational speaker. He had his
Uh-huh.
own show at some time. I actually just signed up for his coaching class.
Okay.
It's called a Be His Prodigy, and
Right.
he is amazing. And I had seen him a couple times, heard him, and he's an older guy, and I don't know
Right.
how much older, but he's an older guy, and it's really interesting to me right now. All my mentors, and I'm recognizing that today, are all males,
Oh, wow.
which I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah,
Interesting.
how did that happen? Because
Right.
I used to be the girl's girl,
Mm-hmm.
all about women empowerment and women and, you know, and looking to women, to be mentored from and it's just a season that I'm in where they're all male, not female right now. So I'm trying to think of a good female mentor. If anybody's watching this on the replay, put hashtag replay if you know of a good lady mentor that you follow,
Right.
because I would
Well,
love to
in
follow.
my world, the people that the one woman who I just admired deeply was Maya Angelou.
Oh, I know. I love
Right?
her.
Because I mean, she was stately. She was
Yes.
so wise. Her poems. Her
Yes.
perspective on things. I just found her to be a woman
Maya
with deep
Angelou, she
water.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she
I
would be
also saw
somebody that I really, as in terms of a female voice that I totally respected.
yeah. I mean, there's Marianne Williamson out there.
Mm.
I follow her a little bit. But I have like right now the energy that I'm in, I don't know if it's
Well, I
if I'm
find.
walking in a alpha mode right
Well,
now.
to be honest, I mean, I might be getting myself in trouble here being sexist or something, so forgive me if I cross the line here, but I find most of the female coaches more emotionally driven.
Right.
They're more touchy feely.
Right.
And that's not a good or bad thing. I'm just
No.
an observation. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're way better relationally.
Yes.
Where the men tend to be more principle fact. You know what I mean? It's like process.
Well,
You know what I mean?
I was totally an Oprah follower for a long
Yeah.
time, and she's not really, in the limelight very much anymore. So when she had her show and everything.
Yeah.
Hey, Jason, watching from work.
Good day.
Oh, that's nice.
Good day, brother.
he's in he's working. That's nice.
But you know what I'm saying? In other words, I find, again, the way men and women think, we all know, is primarily very different,
Well, okay, you're right. I might
primarily.
have
I didn't say absolutely.
Well, yeah, because
There's
I'm
a
not an
reason why
emotional.
women are from Venus and men are from Mars
Yes,
sold so many books because it helped people understand.
I'm a weird one. I am a weird. I'm not a weird woman, but I am not very emotional.
Yeah,
I'm not emotional. I don't know how to
not a
describe that.
touchy-feely girl.
No,
Yeah.
nope.
And
I mean, people think that I'm a hugger, and I'm kind of not. I'm kind
Right.
of not a hugger. Even I'm not.
Right.
I'm a caring person, compassionate,
Right.
and want to love on you, but not love on you. Like,
Yeah.
like I can
Well,
love on you with words.
One of my friends who's got a number of churches, his mom, Barbara Johns, was one of the top real estate women in Kansas City. God rest her soul. She passed away from cancer a number of years ago, but she was like a mama to me. But she was like, I mean, she was warrior. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, she was in a world dominated by men, and she kicked their butts. You know what I mean? But she was
Yes.
like that. She was all get the job done. You know what I mean? She just, you know what I mean? But she was a mom too, you know what I mean? But she,
Yes.
you know, and so that was real intriguing
Yes.
to me because she was kind of one of them in terms of my personal journey, one of the women that kind of made me go, huh, well, there's a different kind of
Yeah.
female warrior. Like she's out there in the marketplace crushing the men.
Yeah. See, that's that. Yeah. I've kind of got that suit on right now.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like in that.
Well, I mean,
in
if you
that
go back
mode.
through history, even though there's not many, you still have the Joan of Arcs, the Boudikas. You know, I mean, there's stories in Africa of queens. You know, I mean, these were warrior women. I mean, these were, you know, if you go back in the biblical context, you have Deborah. It's like none of the men wanted to take the lead, and so Deborah just goes, "Wait a minute," you know what I mean?
That's been half my problem
I mean?
with my relationships is I want to just take the lead.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, and that can be, you know, I'm finding the balance there. So that the male female energy that, you know, that you can, you know, you have to be careful. You know, I try to be.
There's, you know, we have all these stereotypes and models and things like that. But as I've said to you before, I have this little phrase, yeah, but. So there's always these yeah buts. You'd be a yeah but. You wouldn't fit the, you know, the traditional mind. But that's not a.
Yeah, I don't.
God made you, right?
Yeah, I try to step back into my feminine energy because you don't always need to be
I know
in that
a place where it kicks in naturally.
Where?
When you're with your granddaughter.
Oh yeah.
Right? You notice how you're just there?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there's certain triggers, you know what I mean, where your maternal instincts, you know, if you've noticed, I've been posting on my Facebook page because I've been trying to point this out, is that all across the animal kingdom, there is this maternal nature. And what's so amazing about it is it crosses species. You know, like today I posted a picture of a 1-year-old hippopotamus who thinks its mother's a tortoise.
Oh, wow.
Right? Because, you know, there are these things.
Tortoise?
What?
A hippo that thinks it's a tortoise is its mom?
Its mother's a tortoise. And this happens, you know, there's a picture. I have a picture of, you know, a tiger cub playing with pigs. You know, it's the prey and the predator, but they're innocent little, you know, orphans, right? And so there's these natural instincts that God has given us that take over. And so, you know, when we're young, we're looking for who's my mommy, who's my daddy. There's a sense that I belong to something, right? And
I love that book.
And that need is so strong. We'll cross species.
Yeah,
to find it.
I love
right?
that book.
You have a hippo and a tortoise that are mother and son. You know.
Yeah, and you're right. When I get around little kids, little tiny ones, I'm more feminine. I'm more, But like now, I let my boys like pump the gas for me.
Ooh.
Like we'll stop at this. I'll be like, okay, you can pump the gas. Like,
but I mean, part of it too is the way we were raised. You know, I was raised in a very traditional 50s family.
See, I wasn't.
50s and 60s, right? And I had a younger sister, and the way my dad related to us was completely different. You know what I mean?
Right.
My dad rode me on everything. My sister got away with everything because she was a girl, right? And she knew it, and she would be like doing things to tease me and then I would get frustrated and my dad would just be right there to just, lay a hand on her. She's a girl, you know.
She's a girl.
But I mean, I was always the one out in the yard mowing the grass, digging the dirt. I mean, it was always, you know.
So do you think
completely different way we were raised?
Well, question: do you think that you can be mentored by the opposite sex? Do you think that
you cut out on me? So say that again.
I said, do you think you can be mentored by the opposite sex? Do you think?
Well, that's what I said. Barbara Johns was like a mentor to me, and she was a woman,
right?
So yeah, I think you can. It's just, you know, it's just. I don't know how to say it, but it just happens. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's again, mentoring is we've gone through a bit of a metamorphosis, because mentoring when I was growing up was like an apprentice. It was an
Right.
old and a young, and it was more relational.
Yes.
And one of the things that concerns me deeply about a lot of this mentoring stuff is that if you actually look at the millennials, they don't want to be lectured. They don't want to be going to seminars and having somebody stand up there and be their mentor. What
Well,
they
there's a
want
reason
is
I'm
they
bringing
want
this up.
relationships.
There's a reason I'm bringing this up, because that little new app, the Clubhouse app. This Les Brown person that I was just telling you about was just on Clubhouse, and all of these millennials are on there with him going, wow, we want to follow him. We want him to mentor us. So they're seeking it. They're searching
but you got to
for
be careful and from drawing a conclusion from one event, because if you go back and look at psychology as a whole, as a generation, they want to be in your presence. They don't want information. They actually want relationship. Like they really want you to sit with them and engage and talk and actually show them you care, versus
a conversation that I heard, which was an interesting conversation about that, was coaching and mentoring, is that if you're giving it for free, for some reason, people don't want to follow you. But if you charge whatever X dollars, they do want to follow you. So, I mean, how do you feel about that?
Well, that's the theory. I mean, that's the theory behind it. But again, we're in a situation where it's almost information overload. I mean, I just find there's just way too many people out there.
There's too many coaches out there right now, period.
It's just a glut. You know what I mean? And I think people are I think what happens is it's sort of like people are window shopping and trying to find, is there anybody out there that actually speaks to me?
Right.
You know what I mean? Where I'm at, and I was, I was talking with Nikki about this the other night in his world, but I was on a lot of Zoom calls last year with a lot of religious leaders, and bless their hearts, it's like all they had were quoting Bible verses and, telling not a single one of them had an actual practical solution to solving anybody's problems. All right. Well, what happened over the course of time is people just started tuning out.
Right.
They quit following, because it's just like, I already know. I mean, you're not telling me anything I don't know.
Well, do you see what happened with the coronavirus? Let's just go back to there a minute for COVID. When we lost confidence in the leadership, that they knew what they were talking about, exactly what you were talking about earlier, because they were vacillating so much on the real information or true information or any information, that we were so confused that now we've lost confidence in leadership. And I think in the church, that's what's happened. People have lost confidence in leadership in those areas. So unfortunately, it takes a toll on God, like the leadership, because some people put people in that position that they should put God in. And it's like, then as soon as the person is not perfect and is fallible, then they stop believing in God and they stop following him.
Well, I think that's one of the problems that I've found in the whole life coaching world. It's the same trap that preachers fall in. Preachers fall into this trap that I've got to look good so God looks good.
Yes.
Right. And so what they do is they put on this sort of facade, you know what I mean? And they present this idealized worldview. And average person's out there just trying to keep their nose above water, right? They're struggling, you know what I mean? And
they want somebody to
throw life coaching world. There's a lot of people that are they're trying to create their image. You know what I mean? It's all
because that's what they're being sold. They're being sold that your coaching business is not going to be successful unless you do XYZ. and you do all
I
these
know.
things, and then you'll have a successful one. So
Right.
that's the trap we're in right now. And we're in this thing where it's like, what do I do? Well,
Right.
what you do is you be you, and if you have good content and you're speaking, a truth to someone,
Right.
they're going to hear it and they are going to grasp onto it. You don't have to oversell your brand per se. Because if you don't have much to say and you're just regurgitating from everybody else's coaching, I'm sorry, I see through that really quickly and I go, and I've been coming up against that being a life coach. I'm not getting as much traction because I'm not doing XYZ branding. Right. So,
Yeah, but it's, in some ways it's a pyramid scheme. No, but it is. You see this all the time. I mean, it's every little industry has its own, right? And so, and what ends up happening is the market gets saturated, and it's a pyramid scheme.
It
And
is.
so
It's a saturation
there's
right
just
now.
not the demand.
It's the coach coaching the coach, coaching the coach, and then you're like, okay, you're $5,000 into it, and you're like, okay, what did I learn?
And so one of the things that we know is when there's an overabundance of something, what happens? It loses its value.
Yes.
So maybe I'm just that person, but I just refuse to play their game. I mean, I'm not going to do it. Right. And I have plenty of situations. I mean, it happens, I would say 3 or 4 times a week. I've got people on the call asking for, advice, different things like that. But that's because I keep it real.
Right.
As I tell them all, the reason I can help you is I made that mistake.
Right.
Been there, done that. I got scars all down my back from all the failures in my life. It's like, and because of the fact I come from a Judeo-Christian perspective, I remind them that the Bible is a book that tells all the other broken to dysfunctional people that God used. So being broken, dysfunctional, and failing doesn't disqualify you from God's purpose.
No,
it just makes you human.
Right. And see, that's my goal is I want to connect people to their purpose, and I want them to fulfill and be fulfilled and feel fulfilled, and also, feel that peace that God can give them when they're walking in their purpose. Sometimes your purpose is not peaceful. I mean, I'm just going to say that. I mean, I don't always know.
My primary goal for 40 years is to be a paradigm shifter.
Wow, I love that.
Well, and here's why. Because remember, in the church world, we're told where to look, what to see, and how to interpret it. So everybody has the same pair of glasses, right? And they all see, right? And so I
call them khaki pant church.
Yeah. So I've been that guy that's come along, and that's why this week on Tuesday, having this conversation with Nikki was, I mean, if I haven't had one of these, I've had not 1,000, but hundreds of them, of people who've come back 30 years later and went, you know what? When you spoke into my life back then, I had no grid for what you were saying. What you were telling me was so outside of my paradigm at the time, but you put something in me that when I got to a certain Y in the road, I went, oh my gosh, this is what Bob was talking about. That's the path I need to go. Right. See, that to me is mentoring. In other words, and here's the other thing, just where I have a little bit of I'm clashing. I prefer to mentor from behind, not from in front. A lot of these people, the whole thing right now, the spiel about my brand and, follow me and I'm the guy and blah, 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 blah.
Oh, I know.
That just grates against how I'm designed by God. Yeah. What I love to do is I love to get behind people, and it's hard to explain this, but I get behind people, and I take their heads and I go, I know you've been told to look here, but go look this way, right? If I can get them to shift how they're thinking, right? Yes. They'll see it for themselves. And the reason that's important to me is because when you see it for yourself, you own it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
If you're doing it because I told you, which is, it's like we got all these coaches out there and it's, follow me, and do it because I'm the person. I'm like, no, 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 no. It's the truth that sets you free.
Right.
Let me be the guy that helps point you towards the truth.
Right.
But you find it for yourself. You discover it. It's like, I want to take them on a field trip like we went in school and, to the swamp and let them discover all the cool things in nature.
Well, and that's my key, is them finding it in here in themselves. Like not trying to find it out there, like finding it, really resonating with, what the Father is saying to them and their purpose, because when you're not finding your purpose, you're not walking, you tend to feel very, confused and chaos,
Right.
and when you're finding your purpose, it finally is settling, and like I said, sometimes people's purposes are not peaceful, like they're warriors, like you were talking about earlier. Sometimes you don't have a peaceful purpose. Sometimes your purpose, you're a warrior and you're constantly coming up against conflict, which you are as a, Christ follower and a God follower anyway. You're going to come up against all of that because that's the way it works. As soon as, you think you get comfortable, then all of a sudden something else comes at you.
Mm.
Well, those are the times when you pick your sword up and go back after it. But, that's how I look at it. I'm definitely one that likes the warrior,
Well, a few years ago, one of the young, just out of college guys that was at our church called me because he wanted to show me something. And you have to put this in perspective. In the 80s, my colleague was pushing all these young, very talented guys down the ministry path, right? Because the most important thing God was doing is planting churches, and the most important people he was using were in the ministry. And so that was the big push. Well, I came along with this completely different perspective and shared with him. I said, I want you to consider some things. And we spent a whole year at Denny's with a group of these young guys, right? So he invites me to his company. Well, he had just built a $200 million bottling facility. Massive, right?
Right.
And so we walk in, and I was just blown away. I mean, this thing was unbelievable what it was, right? And we get up on the second level and we look down, and he puts his arm around me and he goes, "You know why this is here?" I went, "No." He goes, "Because of you."
Oh.
I went, "What?" He said, "Bob, had I followed your friend's advice, I'd have been a failed pastor in the middle of Kansas somewhere with 50 people in my congregation. You were the one that changed my whole perspective, my whole paradigm. You shifted everything and allowed me to follow the destiny that God had given me. And look at me, I'm making $1 million a year. I mean, I've got this, this, and it's massive. Like, this thing is massive. I had tears coming down my cheeks, you know what I mean? Because it just was such a poignant moment. And I remember getting in my truck, coming home, just talking to God, going, "Well, thank you, God." I mean, it really wasn't me. It was your spirit. It was like your spirit prompted me that this young man had a destiny in another sphere, And so I mentored him for a year, and here's the fruit. And this has happened so many times. So, that to me is mentoring, right? That's, that's where
you're speaking life. Okay. So when you're speaking life,
I never told him how to run his business. You see what I mean? I wasn't,
you were just saying, this is probably not your path. I mean, this is, your path. I mean, I call that prophetic.
It could be. Well, I don't know. Did you listen to the thing I did on the prophetic yet?
I have not. I just saw it today.
Yes. So I did that, but that's the same story. I ran into this guy in Bentonville, Arkansas, in a restaurant meeting with a life coach, another life coach.
Oh, wow.
And he saw us praying and came up and just started talking to us because he was so blown away to see Christians praying in a restaurant, Anyways, he ended up coming over to my house. I spent 2 hours with him, and that's the last time I talked to him. And he contacted me a few months ago and said, "Hey, would you do this interview with me?" Well, I had no idea till he got on the show how much of an impact I had on his life. I was clueless.
Right, for 2 hours. That's how I've always felt about children's ministry. You only have this little amount of time with children to teach them about Jesus, and that it is very important that you do, and that little amount of time is, and do it with love and not do it out of obligation.
Well, my reason I was kind of bringing this up is these are 2 stories, right? I just gave you.
Yeah.
One was with a guy I spent a year with once a week, at breakfast. The other one was 1 2-hour meeting.
Yes.
Right. So if I use the business model, you know what I mean?
Your ROI.
But I'm just saying, if based on what you're supposed to do, these were 2 situations with 2 completely different things God wanted me to do. But because I was listening, the one that was 2 hours was as impactful as the one that was 52 hours. You see what I mean?
Right. That's awesome.
So I just get a little bit nervous when we get formulaic, you know what I mean? And this is how we're supposed to do things. I'm more, I guess I'm a cowboy. I just fly by the seat of my pants, listening to this urging of the Spirit inside of me as to what I'm supposed to do in this moment.
Well, when I was a fairly young, not mature Christian, I would say that, I thought that everything had to be cookie cutter, and I kind of liked, I was kind of comfortable with the structure of it, right? So if you had the structure, then you knew what you were going to expect, and you knew how it was going to go, and it kind of just was easier for me, to go that way. But I've had a lot of epiphanies myself in that, going, hey, wait a minute, it doesn't have to be like that. God's all around. If only you would just look at the people around you and the things going on around you. God's in everything. He's not just in the building over there. He's not because you drove. Who was it? I was watching. Actually, it was this Dan Moeller last weekend at the church saying, stop, just putting on your Christian music and doing your scripture and doing this and that, really start to embrace just the love thing of everything around you. Are you walking out, that in everything that you do versus, just punching the Sunday school card, I mean, exactly. I really liked him. He really did.
Again, what it gets down to, I don't know, Dan, but what it sounds like to me is he has a big God.
Yeah.
And
he sees God in everything.
Have a very small God. They have like this midget God that can only do things in these very narrow parameters.
Well, have you ever, I've talked to lots of people in different spiritual backgrounds and different religion backgrounds. And in some religions, they think that God doesn't have anything to do with you here, that he's up there, we're down here, and he doesn't control anything.
Those would be the deists.
Right.
Thomas Jefferson,
right. And then we have the ones that go, well, how can God have mercy and grace if he allows children to suffer, et cetera, et cetera? Then I have those people. And then I have the ones that, don't make breakfast without asking him which breakfast to make. So I have the whole span of people, and it's interesting. We're all made unique, and God did make us for a purpose. He did make us differently and uniquely, and how you speak to him and connect with him is up to you. He's not going to go, okay, this is how I'm going to speak to you. I was shocked, the way that he spoke to, or when he would speak and what he would speak about. I was never prepared for hearing that small voice. When people say hearing the small voice, they don't understand it's their own voice. It's your voice. He's not going, hey. Now, I have heard of people actually hearing him audibly in a booming voice. I've heard that story before, where he really needed to get their attention. So he had to actually like speak in a booming voice for them to understand it was him. And then I've heard other people know that the knower, that the Holy Spirit spoke to them.
The point that you're making is a little bit why I struggle with this whole life coaching world a little bit. In that when I interact with people, I'm not looking to give them my program, and my cookie cutter thing. What I'm asking is, who are you? Who did God make you? And
Yes.
What is unique about you, right? And so I consider everybody a one-off.
Yeah.
Right. In other words, I look at everyone as you're one, like there's no one like you.
It's true. There is no one like you.
So I'm, so to me,
Right.
and this is where I, get some of my perspective from. To me, the greatest life coach was Jesus.
That's right.
And Jesus' focus was always on motive, like why. And the reason being is he, and from his worldview, if you could get your motive right, if your values were right, you would end up bearing good fruit.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
That's right.
And so you see this, every one of the social ills. I was dealing with this with a guy this week who was giving me this whole lecture on racism, and how we got to change the system. And I kept saying, you don't understand. Racism is a fruit. It's not a root.
Right.
Selfish ambition and greed are roots. That's what drives all the isms. Right. The reason why nobody can talk about this is that the people that are fighting to change racism don't have the worldview, nor the understanding, nor the skill sets to actually really solve the problem.
Right.
The church is the only place that can actually really deal with the issue.
Right.
And the reason I say the church is because it takes the Spirit of God to change a man or a woman's heart. You got to start there. And so Jesus always got down to, he drilled down to the core. And so
he was the
I'm
sacrificial
always doing that when I'm talking to people. I'm trying to get down to what makes them tick, right? And then once we get a hold of that, then we can go outward versus starting from the outside working in. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it does. Yeah. It does. Yeah. Absolutely. And that's why I don't know if you see on my coaching, I do who, what, why, do you? And that those, to me, those are the questions I ask too. Like who, what, who are you? What motivates you? Why do you want to change whatever it is you want to change? And then do you know who you are and what your purpose is? So I
think a lot of people, the biggest struggle that most people have is they don't know who they are.
Right.
Because everyone else, including, all of our political realms, our business, everyone else, church, everyone's telling them who they should be.
Well, right. They even tell them how to be a Christian.
Right.
This is how you do it.
Right.
Well, in the Bible, it kind of maps it out. It does kind of map it out. However, in context, it maps it out in context of the time and what was going on then. That's the only thing is that now.
Well, but the big problem you have, right? And this is a clash. We have there's a clash between the perspective of the kingdom of God and where a lot of life coaching goes. And this is the problem, is that because of the fact that selfish ambition and greed drive so much to the human soul, a lot of the life coaching is how I can have more status and more stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is that in the kingdom of God, those don't matter.
Right.
You see, there's a collision of values.
Yeah.
And so this is where I also end up getting myself in trouble in the life coaching world, is I have a very different perspective, because they're very much caught up in the American dream, right? The American dream is to get famous and get lots of stuff. That's why we're fascinated by the Kardashians, and we live vicariously through all these rich people, because it's what we've all been told is the American dream.
Right.
Problem is the American dream clashes with the kingdom of God.
Yeah. Well, that, it's
and we don't
interesting.
realize that the big wake up calls when we go to funerals.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're suddenly, and my friend John, who's transitioned all these, will tell you that as people are facing eternity, they just go, what did I waste all that time getting all this stuff, and the book you got to read that really just slams it home is Ecclesiastes.
Yeah.
Right? You get into Ecclesiastes and someone
Mhm.
going, what did I do all this for? Like,
Yeah.
what? So I can leave all of this to somebody else who didn't lift a finger for it? Like, what is the point of all this? Right?
Well,
And
see, that is where that is where a shift is. And in fact, I don't know if you know this, I asked Michael to come on with us in a couple weeks, because I wanted him to talk about business and the kingdom of God, what that looks like. What, how do you operate in the midst of that? How do you feel about that? Because, I'm following these people, about being successful and all these things. And it's like, should you feel bad if you make $1 million and you're a Christian? No. Should you feel bad? Or,
but I know people here in Kansas City that lied, cheat, and stole and treated people like crap to become billionaires, only to die of cancer at 60.
Right.
You see what I mean? In other words, they destroyed others to get to the top.
Yeah, no.
You see, all to pursue this thing that made them somebody, right? Because I have status now and I have stuff, so I'm somebody. And God comes along and goes, what do you mean you're somebody? All these things that you are saying make you somebody, not any of it goes with you when you die. You're a somebody because you're my child.
Right.
You're my son and my daughter. That's what makes you right. So a lot of my life coaching is getting down to some of those root issues and helping people get you're connected to what really matters.
Right. But your clients usually have made some kind of success, and then they're not happy still. And they're wondering, why am I not happy? Right. Yeah, why am I still not happy? What am I doing wrong here?
I got what everybody thinks they want and it's empty.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just like going out for a night of dancing and coming home alone, right?
Billy Joel. Piano Man.
Exactly. So yeah, it's one of those kind of deals, but there is a funny balance to it. I'm striving to be successful in something, and I want the success of that because I want to not worry about my future.
Here's the other side of it, and I think Mike, it'll be interesting having this conversation because we've talked about this. The truth of the matter is that because Michael's successful, he can bless others who are struggling, right?
Right.
In other words, because of the fact that he's been a wise steward of what God's entrusted to him, he's in a position to help others,
right?
Which is generosity, which is one of the values of the kingdom of God, right? But you can't get there unless you have generated resources. So that's the other side of the equation. But that's not his identity. That doesn't what makes him
right.
A VIP in the kingdom of God, because God could care less. What he cares about is his generosity, his kindness to the poor. That's what matters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not how big your company is. It's remember, he gives you the stuff and then he goes away And he comes back and he goes, well, what did you do with
What
it?
did you do with it? Right. Did you hide
You know what I
it?
mean?
Were you, it
This
was
is
like
where
that.
I get frustrated with these people that are sitting there waiting for God, and God's like, what do you mean?
Yeah,
You
the
know?
parable of the guy that gave the 3 different servants the different
Yeah, the talent.
giftings. Yeah.
You know, the parable
Yeah.
of the talents. And
Yeah.
and this is part of the dilemma is that there's this kind of understanding or belief that I sit and pray and then God's going to do something. Well, God put us in the garden and told us to manage it and tend it. I mean,
He
the
did.
whole
He
thing
said,
from the
"Now I'm gonna
beginning
make you
is,
toil
here's
the
your
land."
earth. I'm giving this gift to you.
Yeah.
Now go manage it.
Yeah. Now you're going to toil the land, and that's what that means.
Yeah.
Us toiling the land means we're actually doing something. We have action going.
Right. And God's not sitting there telling you what to do. He's watching to say, I've given you all the morals, values, and ethics.
Yeah.
I've given you the principles. There's wisdom here. So what are you doing about it? And that's what
Right.
what you've been entrusted with is what you'll be evaluated with. And
Yes.
so that's why I like guys like Mike, because he's gotten somewhere and now he can help others, which is just,
Right. So that's what I'm hoping that this show does, is to
Mm.
help others somehow, to have a light bulb turn on of some sort, an awakening within. Oh, go figure. A what?
Awakening within.
An awakening within. And when I say that, the within is because you're the one that has to recognize that it's an awakening. You're the one that has to understand the purpose of the awakening, and then you got to do something about it.
Well, I have a weird word, my brain does weird things. So you know what my word picture of the awakening is?
What?
When a human is created.
Oh, nice.
No, because what happens, you have an egg and a sperm, right? And what they've noticed is when there's a connection, what happens? There's a burst of light.
There's a burst
an
of
awakening,
light.
right?
An awakening.
Life.
An awakening
that
of
light,
life.
it just goes.
That's right.
That's
right.
creation.
That's
So
right.
awakening within is a creative moment.
I like that. I like it. That's exactly what I think God was getting at, because I didn't name it.
There you go.
I didn't name it. He named it.
There you go.
He's the steward of this show. He's in the driver's seat. He's the helmsman.
Well, take your light and go out there in the world and
that's right.
Be a light to others.
Yes. So take your awakening, whatever that is, and share it.
There you go.
Don't keep it to yourself. Don't put it under a basket, as one of those childhood songs goes.
Mm-hmm.
Because this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine.
Amen.
Where? Thank you, Bob.
I'm trying to watch the time here so we don't.
It's 6:34. I know we're over.
Oh my gosh.
We're
Now
over.
we'll
They're
have
gonna boot us
repent.
off. We talked about too many controversial things.
Okay.
I don't know. We're probably gonna have a fact check on the top of it.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Bob. As
right,
always, dear. I will see you Monday morning for some coffee. I have no coffee tonight. I'm kind of sad.
Okay.
So take care.
All right.
And I hope that more people come out of the woodwork for you. That's pretty cool.
All right.
I like that. Okay. Bye. Have a good night. Bye, everybody. Whoever joined us. Somebody was watching the whole time. Oh, thank you, Amy. It was you. Thank you for watching the whole time. She was a doll. Thanks. Appreciate you. All right. Bye.